everyone. I hope all is going well today and you're having a beautiful, blessed day. For some of you listening to this may be a sort of a rerun, and for some of you, this will be very, very brand new. But as you may or may not know, the disability community lost their matriarch, or we lost our matriarch, I should say, because as a woman with cerebral palsy, I am considered a disabled woman. And so on Saturday, March 4th, we lost Miss Judy Heumann. Judy was a forefront groundbreaker of the disability rights movement. And she started that movement because she refused to accept what people were telling her about who she could be and the way she could live. The movement all started because Judy was denied the right in New York to become a teacher, because, as they put it, she would become a fire hazard. And how could a woman in a wheelchair move kids around in the event of an emergency? So when Judy was 22, she sued the school board in New York and won the right to become a teacher. And from that lawsuit and from that discrimination grew a monumental movement, which we now call the disability rights movement. It's made up of two parts: the educational portion and the government portion, which was won and created in the 70s. And that all came together in 1972, which was when we finally won our rights to become an educated people that was properly educated. But before 1972, our parents were, I should say, our parents were encouraged to put us in institutions. That way, our parents and our non-disabled siblings could have a quote-unquote normal life and not have to worry about the burden of a child with a disability. Because a child with a disability was considered a hardship. And in many circles, it was considered a status lowering symbol. And so with this newfound fight, we had the right to go to school, to go to the doctor, and to go to any government-run facility with no barriers. But we did not yet have the right to enter private-owned spaces. So anything else that was public but yet was not government owned, we did not yet have that right to go into those certain spaces, such as coffee shops, theaters, malls, whatever you could think of that would be considered recreational, or just simply something that a non-disabled person would take for granted. Yeah, you go to the mall and you have a good time with your friends. We weren't able to do those things. So the ADA was created in, I believe it was 88 when it was written, but it passed into being law in July of 1990. And in July of 1990, I was going to enter fourth grade. Or third grade. I don't remember. But anyway, I was in elementary school. And up until the passage of the ADA, I was held back as a student socially because of the fact that we were treated as a population. We were treated like glass, and we were fiercely watched over, and with the exception of my class, which had, I believe at the time, 10 children in it, including myself, with the exception of my class, I could only play with 2 other people. And those 2 other people were my friends Daniel and Vanessa from the class next door. They would come into the kindergarten yard and play with me, and some of my other friends as well. And it wasn't until July of 1990, and what was going on in my life at the time of July of 1990 is that during school break, I had major surgery that loosened my muscles enough for me to walk. But then after that surgery, I got to go to a new school. And so that fall was very, very different. That fall was the first time I got to experience playing on the big yard, the quote unquote big yard, with all of my friends all at once. And that was very freeing because I wasn't being watched over and I wasn't being treated like glass anymore. And that was because it was all because of Judy Heumann and 49 of her friends who refused to take no for an answer, refused to settle in what society had believed was the right thing for them without even asking them, and just wanted to make a fuss about what they believed in for themselves. And another story that I want to tell you, I'm going to tell you a few stories. That's story number 1. Story number 2 is when I was growing up and I did understand what my rights were. I'm speaking specifically in terms of being in junior high school. So I start my junior high school. I went to Eagle Rock Junior Senior High School. So I went to the same school all 6 years. And during those 6 years, I was the only student who used a wheelchair who wanted to be part of choir. And it was great in the beginning. My parents would come and get me dressed when I auditioned for concert choir and made it into concert choir. They would come and get me dressed and also come and get me up on stage by walking me up the steps. And there came a time, let me backtrack a little bit. There came a time in 7th grade when that was no longer allowed because the school had said that it was dangerous for parents or teachers to help students on school property with anything that was not accessible. But it was not accessible, so how in the world was I going to participate? And their supposed solution was that I would participate from the floor. I would park myself pretty much aligned with the middle of the stage, but on the floor. And therefore, nobody would get hurt, and supposedly I'd be able to participate fine, and all would be right with the world. But I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And keep in mind, I still did not know the background of who Judy Heumann was. But I did not take no for an answer. And I approached my principal and I said, we need to do something about getting a ramp for the auditorium because I want to fully participate with my friends. So, long story short, in 1998, the ramp was built and I was able to sing on stage with my friends as part of the group. But if I had not learned that that was going to be possible for me at all, because a woman went before me and fought for her rights, then I would not have that fight within me. Because we need to see, as people, men and women, we need to see somebody else do it. Whatever it is, we need to see somebody else do something before we even get the courage to do it. Or sometimes we may be the first person to do something. And I hope that that ramp is a breakthrough for some other kid who wants to explore the arts. And maybe even stage design at Eagle Rock High School. And so that leads me to my next story. My next story is one that took place just last year. And it's the story of how I was able to meet Judy Heumann. And by the way, if you are in our community and you say Judy, you know which Judy we're talking about. So when I was able to meet Judy, was actually on the first day of Rolette's Experience 2022. And keep in mind that our meeting wasn't supposed to come until the next day at her book signing for all of us in attendance and all of us that had a book. So we are outside, a group of us are outside the main ballroom at the Sheridan, and we are waiting to enter for the talent show. And as we are waiting to enter for the talent show, Maria, one of the Rolettes, opens the door, and next to her is Miss Judy Heumann. And like I've been saying, if you have listened to me in the recent past this week, I am never a person that is struck speechless. But in this instance, I was so speechless. And she asked me how I feel, and I said, fine. And then she asked me the question that I'll never forget. What do you do? And so I told her I'm a podcaster, and I have a podcast called Encouragement Notes. And she's like, oh, great. That's so awesome. And then her assistant said something that blew me away. She said, oh, you're a podcaster. Judy is too. We'll look you up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. At this point, I lost my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh. The leader of the disability rights movement said she would look me up. And so that weekend, I walked around on cloud 9 that weekend. And so that leads me to the next day of that weekend, or actually it leads me to Saturday. Saturday, the Roulettes decide to give Judy Heumann the Boundless Babe Lifetime Achievement Award. And I just lost it during the ceremony because I had no idea in my past years that I would be face to face with the woman who changed the world for me. And when she got off stage and rolled back to her seat, or went, I don't know if she rolled back to her spot or went back to her room or what the situation was, but when she got off stage, I remember her coming face to face with me again. And at this point, I was ugly crying. I was legit ugly crying. And I just remember squeaking out, thank you. Thank you for what you do. And she said, thank you for what you do. You guys, I'm making this episode, this video, and this recorded podcast episode, this audio episode, because I want to encourage anybody out there, whether you consider yourselves an ally of this disabled community, or whether you are part of the disabled community because you actually have a disability, hidden, physical, or otherwise. I want to encourage you to keep going. Don't stop fighting for what you believe in for yourself. And that, by the way, is one of Judy's most famous quotes. If we don't demand what we believe in for ourselves, we're never going to get it. So you need to step up and be your own advocate. And when you're your own advocate, you're actually stepping into being an advocate for others. Thank you guys so much for listening. I love you. And I hope that all is going well. I look forward to talking to you again soon. And God bless. Bye-bye. And I promise, I gotta say, I promise, Judy, I love you. And I promise that I will continue. I will be one of the voices that will continue your mission, that will continue your work, because I know that we're not done yet. Anyway, you guys, I will talk to you later. Love you. Have a beautiful, blessed day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.